tensions in the Middle East have been a complex and long-standing issue, influenced by a variety of factors including political disputes, religious differences, and historical conflicts. Key areas of concern often revolve around the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Syrian civil war, and tensions between nations such as Iran and Saudi Arabia. These issues are further complicated by foreign interventions and the interests of major powers in the region. The situation often leads to violence, humanitarian crises, and geopolitical instability, making it a focal point of international relations. 1. Tensions ignite. The USA, Israel, and Iran clash in a high-stakes showdown in recent weeks. Geopolitical tensions have escalated dramatically as the United States, Israel, and Iran find themselves on a collision course. The backdrop of this confrontation is steeped in a history of distrust and rivalry, with each nation pursuing its own strategic interests. The United States has ramped up military presence in the region, citing the need to deter Iranian aggression, while Israel remains on high alert, conducting extensive surveillance and air exercises in preparation for possible retaliatory strikes. Iran, feeling cornered, has fortified its military capabilities and issued stern warnings against any perceived threats to its sovereignty, asserting its right to defend itself. The situation reached a boiling point following a series of provocative incidents involving Iranian forces in international waters and border skirmishes. Diplomatic efforts appear to falter as both sides refuse to back down from their stands, raising fears of an armed conflict that could destabilize the entire region. As allies and adversaries closely monitor these developments, the stakes have never been higher. The potential for miscalculation looms large, with consequences that could reverberate far beyond the immediate participants, affecting global security, economic stability, and diplomatic relations worldwide. 2. The new Cold War, USA and Israel versus Iran, who will prevail? In recent years, the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East has transformed dramatically, giving rise to what many analysts are calling a new Cold War. This contention primarily revolves around the persistent tensions between the United States and Israel on one side, and Iran on the other. Understanding the dynamics of this multifaceted rivalry is essential to assessing the potential outcomes of this ongoing conflict. At the core of this confrontation is Iran's nuclear program, which many nations, particularly the USA and Israel, perceive as a direct threat to regional stability and global security. The 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal, was an attempt to curtail Tehran's nuclear ambitions, but the 2018 US withdrawal from the agreement under President Trump reignited tensions and led to a series of escalating confrontations. Israel, seeing Iran as its most formidable adversary, has adopted a proactive stance, conducting covert operations and airstrikes against Iranian assets in Syria and elsewhere. The Israeli government argues that a nuclear-armed Iran would fundamentally shift the balance of power in the region, empowering militant groups such as Hezbollah and threatening its own existence. On the other side, Iran is not merely a passive player, it has built a network of alliances and proxy groups throughout the Middle East. From its support for Hamas in Gaza to the backing of the Houthis in Yemen, Iran has established a foothold that it seeks to expand in defiance of Western influence. This strategy is grounded in a revolutionary ideology that promotes resistance against what it perceives as imperialism, primarily led by the United States. As the new Cold War unfolds, both sides are also engaging in a battle of narratives globally, trying to win over public opinion and rally international support. The US emphasizes the need for a strong stance against Iranian aggression, while Iran portrays itself as a victim of oppressive sanctions and militaristic posturing. So, who will prevail in this high-stakes geopolitical chess game? The outcome will likely depend on several factors: the resolve of the United States and Israel to confront Iranian influence, the internal stability of Iran, and the reactions of other nations, particularly those in Europe and the broader Middle East. As this Cold War progresses, the world watches closely, knowing that the ramifications of this struggle will impact not just the region, but also global security and diplomatic relations for years to come. 3. Fires of conflict. Inside the escalating struggle between USA, Israel, and Iran. Fires of conflict. An in-depth examination of the escalating struggle between the United States, Israel, and Iran. This comprehensive exploration delves into the intricate and multifaceted tensions among the United States, Israel, and Iran. As geopolitical rivalries intensify, this narrative sheds light on the historical context, key players, and critical events that have shaped this volatile relationship. The United States has long positioned itself as a staunch ally of Israel, providing military and economic support while pursuing its strategic interests in the Middle East. Conversely, Iran has emerged as a defiant regional power, fostering proxy groups and engaging in nuclear development, prompting concerns from both Washington and Jerusalem. This analysis not only highlights the complexity of diplomatic efforts, including sanctions, negotiations, and military posturing, but also examines the implications of these conflicts for regional stability and global security. Ultimately, Fires of Conflict seeks to provide readers with a thorough understanding of the underlying issues and the potential paths forward in this precarious geopolitical landscape. 4. A geopolitical powder keg. How the USA and Israel are confronting Iran. Tensions in the Middle East have been escalating, with the United States and Israel taking a firm stance against Iran. The geopolitical landscape is increasingly complex, involving a web of alliances, rivalries, and historical grievances. The USA sees Iran as a significant threat due to its nuclear ambitions and support for militant groups across the region. In response, American policies have included economic sanctions, military presence in the Gulf, and strategic partnerships with nations like Saudi Arabia and Israel. The US aims to curb Iran's influence and prevent the expansion of its nuclear program. Israel, sharing similar concerns, has been proactive in its approach. The Israeli government views Iran's potential nuclear capability as an existential threat. This has led to a series of military operations aimed at thwarting Iranian military actions and preventing the transfer of advanced weaponry to groups like Hezbollah. The situation is further complicated by Iran's regional partnerships with countries like Syria and its influence in Iraq and Yemen. Military confrontations, both overt and covert, have taken place, raising fears of a wider conflict. Complicating matters is the divided opinion within the international community regarding how to deal with Iran. While some nations support the US and Israel's tactics, others advocate for diplomatic engagement and easing of sanctions. As the US and Israel navigate this turbulent geopolitical environment, the potential for a miscalculation or escalation remains a real concern, making this region one of the most volatile in the world. The stakes are high, and the outcome will significantly influence global politics for years to come. 5. The battle for influence. Iran's strategy amidst USA and Israeli aggression. In the complex geopolitical landscape of the Middle East, Iran finds itself at a critical juncture as it navigates its relationships with the United States and Israel, two of its most significant adversaries. The ongoing tensions between these nations have prompted Iran to adopt a multifaceted strategy aimed at bolstering its influence both regionally and globally. Iran's approach centers on strengthening its alliances with various non-state actors and regional powers. This includes fostering relationships with militant groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and various factions in Iraq and Syria, which serve as proxy forces that extend Iran's reach and influence. These alliances not only provide Iran with strategic advantages in its immediate neighborhood but also challenge US and Israeli interests in the region. Economically, Iran has been forced to adapt in the wake of stringent international sanctions led by the US. These sanctions are designed to curb Iran's nuclear program and limit its influence. In response, Iran has sought to diversify its economic partnerships, notably turning towards countries like Russia and China for trade and military cooperation. This pivot to alternative economic alliances is part of a broader strategy to mitigate the impact of Western sanctions and assert its autonomy on the global stage. In addition, Iran's investment in its military capabilities, including advancements in missile technology and drone warfare, serves as a deterrent against perceived threats from the US and Israel. By showcasing its military prowess, Iran aims to project strength and resilience, thereby redefining the balance of power in the region. Furthermore, Iran engages in a robust information and cyber warfare campaign to counteract the narratives pushed by the US and Israel. This includes utilizing social media and state-sponsored media outlets to disseminate its perspective and rally support for its positions both domestically and internationally. Despite these strategies, Iran also faces significant challenges, including internal dissent and economic hardships that could undermine its long-term objectives. The evolving regional dynamics, particularly the normalization of relations between some Arab states and Israel, further complicate Iran's efforts to maintain its influence. Navigating this intricate web of alliances, adversities, and ambitions, Iran continues to adapt its strategies in an ever-changing geopolitical environment. The battle for influence not only reflects the enduring rivalries in the region but also underscores the broader implications for global security and stability. 6. USA and Israel at the crossroads, Iran tighten its grip. In recent years, the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East has become increasingly convoluted, with the United States and Israel facing significant challenges stemming from Iran's growing influence in the region. As Iran strengthens its military capabilities and expands its network of proxy groups across neighboring countries, the implications for both the USA and Israel have become more pressing. Iran's strategic maneuvers, including its support for militant groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and various factions in Syria and Iraq, have raised alarms in Washington and Jerusalem. These developments not only threaten Israel's security but also challenge the broader interests of the United States in maintaining stability in the Middle East. The United States, navigating a delicate balancing act, must contemplate its foreign policy goals in light of Iran's assertiveness. The complexities of re-entering negotiations over Iran's nuclear program further complicate this situation, as political leaders grapple with the potential consequences of a nuclear-capable Iran. Israel, meanwhile, is at a critical juncture where it must assess its military strategies and alliances in the face of an emboldened Iranian regime. The possibility of preemptive action looms large, as Israeli leaders consider their options to thwart Iranian threats directly. Together, the USA and Israel now find themselves at a crossroads, needing to formulate a cohesive strategy that addresses the Iranian challenge while fostering regional stability and security. The decisions made in this pivotal moment will not only shape the future of these nations but also the broader dynamics of power within the Middle East. As tensions rise and the threat from Iran intensifies, the stakes could not be higher for America and Israel in this critical juncture of international relations. 7. Military maneuvers and diplomatic dilemmas. The USA, Israel, and Iran conflict, a multifaceted landscape of military strategies and intricate diplomatic negotiations marks the conflict involving the United States, Israel, and Iran. At the heart of this tension is Israel's significant apprehension regarding Iran's nuclear program, which is viewed not merely as a policy issue but as a direct threat to its national security and survival. Israel has consistently articulated its stance that a nuclear-armed Iran would destabilize the entire region, leading to an arms race and increasing aggression from Iranian-backed proxies across the Middle East. In response to these concerns, Israel has ramped up its military presence and capabilities. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, have conducted a series of airstrikes targeting Iranian interests in Syria, aimed at thwarting Tehran's military entrenchment near Israel's borders. These operations are often described as preemptive strikes designed to degrade Iranian military infrastructure and capabilities before they can pose a direct threat. Israel has also invested heavily in advanced defense systems, such as the Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the Arrow missile defense systems, to protect against potential retaliatory strikes. Iran, for its part, has not been passive. It has strategically fortified its military positions in Syria and has employed asymmetric warfare tactics through the support of proxy groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and various Shiite militias in Iraq. Iran leverages these alliances to exert influence throughout the region, creating a network that not only serves its defensive interests but also poses challenges to US and Israeli operations. On the diplomatic front, the picture is equally complex. The nuclear negotiations surrounding Iran, primarily under the framework of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, have oscillated over the years. Initially hailed as a breakthrough in 2015, the deal aimed to limit Iran's nuclear capabilities in exchange for sanctions relief. However, the United States' withdrawal from the JCPOA in 2018 under the Trump administration significantly altered the dynamics. This decision not only strained US-Iran relations but also created a rift with European allies who remained committed to the agreement. Since the US withdrawal, Iran has progressively ramped up its nuclear activities, enriching uranium to levels closer to weapons grade and expanding its stockpile beyond the limits set by the JCPOA. The Biden administration's attempts to revive talks have faced numerous hurdles, as Iran has conditioned its return to negotiations on the lifting of sanctions and guarantees against future withdrawals by the US. This precarious balance of military maneuvers and diplomatic dialogue continues to define the relationship between these three nations. With Israel increasing its military posturing and conducting operations against Iranian assets and the US caught between supporting its ally and pursuing diplomatic solutions, the potential for conflict remains high. The situation is further complicated by other regional dynamics, including ongoing tensions between Sunni and Shia factions, the implications of Russia's involvement in the Middle East, and the evolving alliances among Gulf states. As both military actions and diplomatic efforts unfold, the stakes remain critical. The intertwined nature of historical grievances, national interests, and regional security concerns makes achieving a sustainable resolution notably challenging, leaving the future of the USA, Israel, and Iran relationship uncertain and fraught with potential for escalation. 8. Alliances in turmoil. Mapping the USA-Israel-Iran war landscape. Alliances in turmoil. Mapping the USA-Israel-Iran war landscape offers an in-depth examination of the intricate and often volatile relationships among the United States, Israel, and Iran. This analysis begins with a historical overview, tracing the roots of tension that have developed over decades and outlining key events that have shaped current perceptions and policies. The text delves into the strategic interests that drive each nation, highlighting how the US positions itself as a key ally of Israel, emphasizing shared democratic values, military cooperation, and economic ties. In contrast, Iran's strengthening regional influence, fueled by its support for proxy groups in Lebanon, Syria, and elsewhere, is scrutinized as a direct challenge to US interests and a source of existential concern for Israel. The narrative further explores the nuances of the Israeli-Iranian rivalry, particularly focusing on military posturing, cyber warfare, and intelligence operations. This rivalry is set against a backdrop of regional power dynamics, where Sunni and Shia divisions complicate alliances, impacting not only Israel and Iran but also the broader Middle Eastern landscape. Furthermore, the text discusses the influence of international actors, such as Russia and China, in this triangular conflict, examining how their involvement affects the calculations and strategies of the primary players. The implications of these alliances for global security are critically assessed, particularly in light of the potential for escalation into open conflict. Public sentiment, both within these nations and in the broader international community, is also considered, revealing how domestic politics can impact foreign policy decisions. As alliances shift and evolve due to geopolitical pressures, the text highlights the necessity of adaptive strategies and diplomatic engagement to navigate the complexities of this fraught landscape. In conclusion, Alliances in Turmoil not only maps the current state of affairs but also offers insights into possible future scenarios, urging stakeholders to consider the long-term ramifications of their actions in this deeply interconnected and increasingly contentious arena. 9. Unraveling alliances, the struggle for stability in the Middle East. The Middle East has long been a region characterized by complex geopolitical dynamics and shifting alliances, where historical grievances, cultural differences, and resource competition intersect. The struggle for stability in this area has profound implications, not only for its inhabitants but also for global politics. At the heart of the region's instability is a web of alliances that are often fragile and based on a mix of pragmatism and sectarian loyalty. For instance, countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran represent opposing ideologies and sects within Islam, Sunni and Shia, respectively, and their rivalry exacerbates tensions not only between themselves but also among other nations in the region, influencing conflicts in Syria, Yemen, and beyond. Moreover, the impact of external powers cannot be understated. The interests of nations such as the United States, Russia, and the European Union often complicate local dynamics, as these powers engage in strategic partnerships with specific states or groups. This external involvement can escalate conflicts instead of resolving them, leading to a cycle of unrest and violence. The shifting allegiances, whether through military support, economic aid, or diplomacy, create an environment of unpredictability where long-standing partnerships can dissolve overnight. In addition to the geopolitical factors, socio-economic challenges, including high unemployment rates, political disenfranchisement, and the effects of climate change, further fuel instability. Many citizens, feeling marginalized and disillusioned, have turned to extremist ideologies as a form of resistance, which in turn perpetuates a cycle of violence and discord. Efforts towards stability, such as peace agreements, diplomatic dialogues, and grassroots initiatives, have shown promise but often falter in the face of deep-rooted animosities and the prevailing interests of powerful stakeholders. The quest for a balanced and peaceful coexistence remains a significant challenge, as the region navigates its intricate landscape of alliances and enmities. Ultimately, unraveling the complexities of alliances in the Middle East is crucial for understanding the ongoing struggle for stability in a region that continues to have profound implications for global security and diplomacy. Addressing these challenges requires both local engagement and international cooperation, working towards a framework that promotes lasting peace and mutual understanding among the diverse populations that call this region home. 10. Countdown to conflict: the rising tides of war between USA, Israel, and Iran. In recent years, tensions between the United States, Israel, and Iran have escalated to alarming levels, raising concerns about the possibility of a wider conflict in the Middle East. The complex historical, political, and ideological divides among these nations contribute to a precarious situation that could ignite a serious confrontation. The United States has long viewed Iran as a primary adversary in the region, particularly due to its nuclear ambitions and support for militant groups such as Hezbollah and Hamas. In response to these perceived threats, the US has implemented a series of sanctions aimed at crippling Iran's economy and curtailing its influence. Israel, sharing similar concerns about Iran's nuclear program and its aggressive rhetoric, has maintained a posture of military readiness. The Israeli government has repeatedly stated its commitment to preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, even if that means conducting preemptive strikes. On the other hand, Iran has intensified its defiance, leveraging its alliances in the region and engaging in proxy wars to counter US and Israeli actions. The Islamic Republic continues to bolster its military capabilities, thereby escalating the arms race and making diplomatic resolutions more challenging. As geopolitical dynamics shift, it's crucial to observe how external factors, such as global economic conditions and alliances, play into the conflict. The potential for miscalculation or provocation remains high, raising the stakes for not just the involved nations but for global security as a whole. The countdown to conflict appears to be marked by a series of events that could either lead to diplomatic engagement or military confrontation. As the world watches closely, the hope remains for a resolution that avoids conflict and fosters stability in an already volatile region. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching.